The best lead actors you'll ever find. Lily Zhao, Brandon Cruz. I'm sitting here right between them. We're getting set for the FOX6 Sports Blitz. We appreciate you joining us tonight. Lots going on in the world of sports, despite the fact that February is turning to March. Let's take a look at our starting lineup. Brian Gutekunst and the Packers on the clock for the NFL draft in Green Bay. Are they feeling the pressure? In the words of the late Meatloaf, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Bucs have a pretty good thing going this week. Bart Lundy and the UW Panthers coming to the K this postseason. What does that mean? They, Marquette, and Wisconsin all marching into March with big dreams in college basketball. Plus, our latest high school hotshot is actually hot shots, plural.
There's a standard in our building, and at the end of the season, we didn't meet that standard. We certainly think this group's capable of doing that, and we want to make sure that everybody understands where we're trying to go, and I think they do. And I think we're all excited to get back together and start working towards that.
There's Brian Gutekunst at the NFL Scouting Combine this week. He is the general manager of the Green Bay Packers. He's talking about a lot of things within their building. You talk about excited. Lily, are you excited to start thinking football now? To me, this is the unofficial kickoff of the next season.
Yeah, the league new year starts very shortly. I'm always excited to talk football, so I'm excited that we're talking about the upcoming draft in Green Bay. The Combine just wrapped up, so what does it mean for Brian Gutekunst and the Packers and what they're able to do to really retool this roster via free agency in the draft? So I'm excited to see what this man right here can do. Last couple draft classes, Tim, very successful.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Really bounce back work there. At time to scout, that's the predominant activity for Brian Gutekunst. A lot of evaluation here in Indianapolis as the Combine wraps up, Brandon, but also some conversation about what they might want to do in terms of trades. Jair Alexander's name is out there. You're pretty good at handicapping trades. You see one happening?
Yeah, I do. I think he's gone. I think he kind of hinted at in a very easy way to say that they're very willing to move Jair Alexander somewhere else. It's just not a fit anymore for the Packers because of his injuries and the fact that he has not always been able to get on the field. And he's also had some issues with some personality clashes and decisions he's made for his behavior. So I think that this is the time that they're going to move him. Now, there are rumors that he could be going somewhere and they could be bringing in a big receiver. Don't know how accurate that is at this point in time, but that is some of the talk going on right now. I do expect Jair Alexander to no longer be with the Packers once everything is said and done and they get ready for camp. And I do expect a wide receiver to come in via trade. I don't know if it would be for Alexander, but I do expect them to try to get a big name at wide receiver if they can.
Well, you and I both give it a shot, but Lily owns social media in our department. So, Lily, what do you think? How do you ferret your way through all the rumors, speculation? This is going to happen, that's going to happen. A lot of good talk out there.
Yeah, and that's the key word, a lot of good talk, right? That's what kind of pays our bills, right? We're talking about what the Packers could potentially do. I think a lot of names kind of linked to Green Bay right now in terms of wide receivers, a DK Metcalf or a Devontae Adams. Interesting to see the direction the Packers do go because you look at their current class, right? These guys need to make that next step. Christian Watson likely will be out a majority of next season with that injury. Romeo Doubs, we'll see what his future holds as well in terms of his health as well. So what does this group of pass catchers do to make that next leap together? We shall see, but it wouldn't hurt this team to bring in a quote-unquote traditional number one wide receiver. I know Josh Jacobs kind of campaigning for that at the draft in this offseason, so it wouldn't hurt to add another talented veteran wide receiver, but the names DK Metcalf, Devontae Adams, will they come to Green Bay? We shall see.
Are the Packers an elite team heading into the start of this calendar year, the football year, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, elite, it's right there. It's kind of like if you're going to grade somebody, they're at a minus or a plus. They're not at a solid level of a letter grade. But I do think they are in the upper echelon. How about that? The upper echelon of the NFL because they have a very good quarterback. They have a lot of guys coming back who have seen success and made the playoffs two seasons in a row together. So I do feel like they can get there and be elite by just adding a couple of pieces. They don't need 7 pieces. They need maybe 2 or 3 to get to that level. So I'm going to say upper echelon, not quite elite at this point.
Interesting assessment, no question. Can they get there by adding an edge rusher or 2? Is that critical to this team?
I think it is critical. I think Brian Gutekunst talked about wanting to get after the quarterback with 4, affecting the pressure and finishing the game and changing the game with their pressure up front. The Packers certainly were getting after the football this year or this past season in terms of takeaways, but they weren't really getting after the quarterback as much as they would like. So if they can get another edge rusher up there to help Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark and company, that would really behoove this defense to really make that next step under Jeff Hafley. So I think it is key for this team to get that pressure on a quarterback, and that comes with bringing in a talented edge rusher, probably via free agency or draft.
You know, if you played Spencer Rattler and the Saints all the time, or the Titans, you'd have a lot of defensive highlights. I'm just kind of noticing that as we go through this stuff and thinking back over the course of the last football season for the Packers. It's the future now. You look at the future. You look at who the Packers are going to bring in, and the players at the Combine are looking at their own futures. Hunter Wohler would be one of them. We saw him grow up, becomes a varsity football player as an underclassman in high school. Now he's on the verge of playing in the NFL.
And you know what's exciting about it is as we've watched him grow up, he's always been very humble, but he's also been very confident in what he can do, and he's always been a team guy. I think those three things do well for him. It showed, I think, in the way he interacted with people there. You saw him there. You talked to him. Mm-hmm. What did you get from his experience there at the NFL Combine?
We're talking about the Badger safety from Muskego, and I got that he's ready for this opportunity. He feels blessed to be in this position, very appreciative and grateful to be here, but thinks he can do something at this next level. Not a courtesy invite. He thinks he's going forward, and there's a reason that he has this chance to show off at the Combine and then go to the next level. Lily, how about guys who played at Wisconsin, finished at Florida? Ooh. Graham Mertz, Chimere Dike.
Yeah, we'll see what their futures hold. I think Chimere Dike tested very well at the Combine. Graham Mertz, of course, his career cut short by injury, but really intrigued to see what value they could add to an NFL team. And hopefully, guys like those will get drafted.
Big names at one point on this stage. They move somewhere else. You kind of think, what happened to those guys? Well, we're about to find out what will happen as they go to the next level. We're going to the next topic.
We got a lot of guys that can make shots. And when we just continue to make that extra one and we continue to trust each other, not only is it just good for the team morale, but I think the spirit of the team, just the style that we play, I think it just gives us energy.
Damian Lillard always likes to talk about guys who can make shots. He's one of those guys who can make shots. Pretty good week for the Bucks. A 3-point loss to Houston. Otherwise, wins over decent teams in the Western Conference. Brandon, you were there when they beat the Denver Nuggets. Is this team looking different to you than it did a couple of weeks ago?
They are. I think that they've kind of rallied around one another with the loss of Bobby Portis, knowing that he's out for what will total be 25 games. These guys have had to pick up the pieces, and you've seen it in different ways. But the one thing that really stands out is the way Giannis and Dame have been playing together. They are finally in sync. There's a really good rhythm with those two when they're on the floor. And then you're seeing the other parts help them out in that situation, mainly a Brook Lopez. And so when those three are really doing something, then all of a sudden you see this team start to roll, and then they move the ball a lot more. Kyle Kuzma gets involved. And so I like the way that this attitude has become, and their defense has picked up. And that's something that I think we saw them struggling with in the first few months of the season, but now it's all starting to click. And I think there's just a new demeanor on this team, and I think it really all started with the loss of Bobby Portis.
Interesting, and the guys in that group that you've talked about doing their jobs takes a little pressure off the Bucks bench, which suddenly has looked a little more prolific.
Yeah, and I think that's what was missing during the first part of the season. It was their bench scoring. It was Giannis, Dame, and nobody kind of could score from the bench, and that really has changed with the additions of Kyle Kuzma, Kevin Porter Jr., Gary Trent, and those guys are really stepping up in big moments, and that's exactly what they needed. In the Mavs game, the bench combined for 43 points. I mean, they have been playing very, very well. And the most important thing is when Giannis is still on this minutes restriction, this Bucks team is still in the plus category when he is on the bench, and that's something that couldn't be said earlier in the year when he was not playing. So the fact that this team is scoring when Giannis and Dame are getting a breather is boding very well for them with the playoffs coming up very close.
A.J. Green, not even a drafted player. He continues to be a contributor. Here you're looking at the Eastern Conference standings. Bucks hanging right in there, 4th or 5th with the Pacers. Kind of goes from day to day. And they seem to be a step behind those top 3 teams, but they're on the same page at least with those top 3 teams. Brandon, Doc Rivers has stayed with this team even from the beginning of the year, very positively. Has it made a difference?
I think so. I think the guys just trust him. And I think that's not always the case with coaches and players, and especially when you're trying to find minutes or find roles for guys. But this group has seemed to trust him and trust the process. You always hear about them getting getting into good habits and trying to keep those good habits win or lose. And I think that is finally starting to happen as we enter March. And that's the best time for this team, because in a month and a half they will be in the playoffs and they will be trying to move forward. And I think it's a matter of trusting the process and knowing that he's using it. I mean, think about this. We were seeing so many different units out there, guys making up different units, and now he's got a rotation that's pretty solid and the same. It's not changing a whole lot right now. Like Andre Jackson Jr. is not in right now, which you'd think would be surprising with the amount of minutes he had early in the season.
Right.
But now he's not finding it. It's because they found a group that is starting to work, and he wanted to make sure these new guys have that ability to play together, so when it matters, they can be in the right spots.
Yeah, he's a guy who went from starter to basically not even sniffing the floor, and other guys have gone the other way. Some of these new people have come in and taken some of those minutes. Lily, to wrap up with the Bucs segment here, what has to happen in these next few weeks for you to feel more confident going into the playoffs than we have seen the last couple of years with early exits?
I think continued defensive pressure. I think that was a big thing that this team emphasized. Yeah, we know they can score, but can they keep up their defensive pressure? We've seen lapses in that where they don't play defense and they lose games. And I think that's the critical thing there, is to play well on both ends of the court. And also, can you prove and beat these top teams in the East? Cleveland comes in on a Sunday. So we'll see if they can kind of compete with the top teams in the East. And if they can, that's great.
Interesting stuff, no question, for the Milwaukee Bucks. We have a lot more to come tonight on the FOX6 Sports Blitz, and this time of year you start thinking, play ball. Brewers regulars getting a little more action as spring training games continue. Garrett Mitchell maybe hitting his stride. First homer of the spring for him, couple of doubles. Also Christian Yelich. Yep, Christian Yelich is in camp this year and in the lineup this week for the first time since undergoing that back surgery last season. He is DHing, and we'll do some of that as the season gets upon us. The Blitz rolls on right after this.
The intensity's been good. The focus has been good. They're taking care of their bodies. I mean, this is a very serious group right now. It hasn't been always the most serious group all year, but right now they're locked in.
Yeah, Bart Lundy talking about his UW Milwaukee Panthers as they have finished the Horizon League, at least in the regular season. They are now at home for the second round of the Horizon League. They get a bye in the first round, getting the number 3 seed. What are you seeing with this team now that they're going into the postseason? Obviously, this is basically you win the conference tournament you're in. If you're not in the NCAA tournament.
You have a shot, right? You have a puncher's chance, and probably a better than puncher's chance because of the way UWM has played over the course of the season. You have some senior leadership on this team. You start with a home game. You're playing reasonably well at the end of the year. You've won some road games at the end of the year, too, which will give you some confidence you go somewhere else. They're not a great free throw shooting team. They need to kind of put it together, but they're capable for sure.
One of the things they do very well when they win is not turn the ball over, but also is offensive rebounding. How key is that to them moving on in the Horizon League tournament?
I think it's very key. When you're crashing the boards, you get the extra, second chance points, and you have guys like JaMychal Stillwell and company who really can rebound it well. And that's what's important, right? You want those extra opportunities. Any extra touch can get you a bucket. And so I think having that advantage will help this team, especially in the postseason when they want to make a run and make it to the NCAA tournament.
All right, 3 seasons in for Bart Lundy. What do you think of what he's done with this program and how well he's done?
Yeah, I think that you have to look at him as one of the better coaches in the conference for sure. They've been knocking on the door for the NCAA tournament automatic bid out of the Horizon League. He's a very, he's a competitive guy, but he's under control for the most part as well. He's built this program in his light. I think UW made a great hire in Bart Lundy, personally.
All right, they play Thursday. Marquette now has struggled lately on the road, but they got a road win this week. How important is that? Because they're not going to have many more opportunities at home.
I think it's important. I think it was their first road win since January 28th. So it was nice to kind of get that monkey off their back. Granted, it's against a Georgetown opponent that's not been very good this season. But listen, a win is a win, especially on the road. They had a little bit of a lull, especially offensively in the second half, but able to overcome it, having been up 28 points. So I think this is going to be a good, confidence booster for this Marquette team, knowing that you're going to have to play in any sort of venue in March Madness. So getting a win on the road against a good opponent in Georgetown, granted they've struggled this year, certainly will help because St. John's and UConn are coming up next.
What do you think about Ben Gold's play this week? He's really kind of seeming to take a next step forward.
They missed him when he was struggling. Let's just say that. He was very conspicuous when he was out of it and not playing nearly or shooting the ball nearly as well. Much more confident of late, making the shots, wearing his normal number. He's not pulling a Stevie Mitchell. He's not wearing number 33 out there. I think they look like a better team when they have their pieces operating. Simple as that.
They could get the 2 seed in the Big East, not the 1 seed. And finally, with the Badgers, they lose today at Michigan State. They could not shoot the 3, and then they beat Washington earlier in the week. So you played the top team in the conference and you lose, you worst team in the conference and you win. But both couldn't shoot 3s. What does this mean or say about this team, Lily, as we go into this final week?
Yeah, this was kind of a discouraging game for the Badgers because this is a quality opponent, a team you're going to want to beat when it matters most. But for the Badgers, they just had some cold shooting opportunities and couldn't hit the 3, and that's something they've done all season long. So just regroup and get back on track in their next game.
All right, we'll see. They're trying to get a double bye in the Big Ten tournament. Well, when we come back, we're going to introduce you to our high school hot shots. Stay with us.
Welcome back. They were inspired by their older sister, so these brothers took on a new challenge that helped cement their team in the school's history books. Here are this week's Fox 6 High School Hot Shots.
Hi, I'm Stephen Palmer.
I'm Bradley Palmer, and we're seniors at Christian Life School.
And we're part of the state championship cheer team.
And we're twin brothers, so.
I'm older just by a couple minutes.
This is the first state championship that any team at CLS has won. We won in varsity co-ed large game day. Right now in the upper school, we have only about 315 students.
With going against these 1,000+ student schools, you can just see God's hand working in this small school, putting us onto one of the state's largest stages.
The routine kind of encompasses what you would see on the sideline of a football game.
It's more intense than many people think. But once you get out on that mat, it's foot on the gas.
Having the parade in the halls and seeing everyone that's supporting you is such a fulfilling moment.
Seeing all little kids from where I started back in kindergarten to all the way up through being a senior, just seeing their excitement for something their school achieved.
It was such an amazing feeling to hear our name be called state champions.
All we heard was the Krish, and then we shot up. I think our head coach got tackled somewhere in the process of our celebration.
It was just so amazing to have a sport that was so different from the other two that we each do.
I'm on the varsity football team as well as the varsity baseball team. I'm also currently first chair in band.
I do 3 sports just like my twin. Soccer in the fall, baseball in the spring. I've been in choir since 7th grade.
You know, joining cheer together, it was kind of a together or nothing decision. Blood, sweat, and tears literally have gone into this team. It's a full body workout where you're engaging your core, your legs, your shoulders.
And it's not just the strength that it takes. Not only do you just lift people above your head, you have to do it cleanly and just execute everything you do to be able to succeed in the sport.
I'm Stephen Palmer.
I'm Bradley Palmer. And our cheer team won the first state championship in school history. And we are this week's Fox 6 High School Hot Shots.
Meanwhile, Stephen and Bradley are considering going to different colleges, and if they do, that would be their first time apart from one another, but they've embraced pursuing their own interests without diminishing their special bond. Meanwhile, on the mats, individual state wrestling taking center stage at the Kohl Center. Division III Kenosha St. Joseph's Koji Campbell becoming the 30th wrestler in state history to earn 4 individual state titles, finishes an incredible career with just 1 loss. In Division I at 120 pounds, West Bend West's Ethan Bast earning his 2nd state title. Meanwhile, Oconomowoc Kellen Wolber is a 3-time champion. And finally, on the girls' side, Oak Creek's Isabel Olson wins her first state title. She's undefeated in her senior season. Congrats to all our winners. We'll be right back.
Back-to-back and back-to-back for the Bucks this week. At Atlanta Tuesday, home against Dallas, home Saturday Orlando, home Sunday Cleveland.
Yeah, tournament action begins Thursday night for UWM. They're the 3 seed in the Horizon League tournament. Marquette finishes off at UConn and at home against St. John's. The Badgers are at Minnesota before ending the regular season at home against Penn State.
And on the ice, the Ads close out their 7-game homestand with 3 games. The Stars for a morning skate on Wednesday. Wolves travel up for a Friday night game, and the Wild are here Saturday night.
All kinds of stuff happening here. And then out in Arizona, the Brewers continuing to move along toward opening day, which is coming up before this month is out.
Yeah.
All right, we're out. Lily, Brandon, Tim, thanks. We'll see you again next Sunday night.